Oral Health Podcast. Now, we're here for National Smile Month 2025, where the theme is Feed Your Smile. Now, that can encompass loads of different things, but specifically today, we want to talk about acid and all of the things that can affect your teeth when it comes to acid. So that could be from foods and drinks, but also from, medical things like stomach acid reflux, and just really dig into how acid actually affects the teeth. So, Karen, what a lovely treat to be sitting and talking to you again today. How are you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, the sun's shining. We're going to have a really nice sunny whole month of National Smile Month,
I hope
which will make
so.
us all smile.
That's the goal. That is the goal.
Yeah, let's hope. Let's hope. Yeah, I mean, when we talk about acid, I mean, we talk about acid, obviously, we all understand that, um, you know, there is acid in a lot of things that we use daily, and we know that if we got it on our skin, it would burn.
Hmm.
It's literally going to do the same thing in your mouth. So, whilst we're not talking about the kind of acids that would cause, serious burning and whatever, we're talking about acidic foods and drinks. Now, some of these may not be something that you would immediately think of, because some of the worst ones are, fruit teas and smoothies and things like that, which, I mean, generally speaking, we would say, oh no, fruit tea is much better than having something with caffeine in, etc., etc. So yes, if you are avoiding caffeine, have something, maybe have a peppermint tea, have a green tea, have a decaffeinated tea. But the fruit ones are acidic. So you do have to be very careful about how many of these you have and how often you have them. So I know it sounds really silly, doesn't it, drinking a fruit tea with a straw, but it would be better. I think you probably look a bit strange in a coffee shop or whatever. But using a straw means that the acidic liquid is in contact with your teeth for less, so you got less damage. So when we're talking about acid in foods and drinks, and obviously I just touched on drinks there, talk about foods shortly. What it is doing, it's weakening the surface of the enamel of the teeth. So what it's doing is it's taking off the top layer of the enamel. And obviously done over a time, you are losing layers of enamel. And I mean, there's lots of pictures you can go and find of acid erosion, and there are some really quite severe cases of it where people are literally drinking smoothies and fizzy drinks and those kind of things with fruit in them, um, day in, day out for a prolonged time, which can lead to tooth sensitivity. It can lose darkening of the teeth. Not necessarily darkening of the teeth, but it means if your enamel gets thinner, the darker coloured dentine behind the enamel is going to show through more. So your teeth are going to be a little bit darker. And in some cases, you'll even need sort of dental intervention. So you'll need some restoration treatment to restore the enamel on your teeth. So obviously that's very extreme cases. So I mean, when we're looking at foods, we're looking at fruits um, in the main, or anything with fruit in them. Now, we're not saying don't eat fruit, not at all. That's not what we're saying. But you're better to keep fruit as part of a meal time. You are better to eat a whole fruit. So rather than a orange juice, eat the orange as whole or an apple as a whole. That is much better because as soon as you squash the fruit to make the juice, it becomes a free sugar. Now, we've talked about free sugars before being um, a sugar that we have to count towards our daily allowance of sugar. So it's always better to eat the whole fruit because the sugar in a whole fruit is still within the cells of the fruit. So it's not a free sugar. It's still maintained
Hmm.
in the structure of the fruit. So if you possibly can, eat it as a whole fruit rather than a juice or um sort of in a biscuit or something like that, because obviously you've got the double whammy of sugar. So we'll look at the pH levels. Now, the pH level in the mouth should be neutral. So as soon as it drops below neutral, that's when the potential acid erosion can happen. So ideally, we want to keep that pH as normal. But every time we have something acidic, that pH level is dropping and it will drop right down. If anybody has seen a Stefan curve, we'll put a link to one so you can see what happens in the mouth when we eat or drink something. You'll see it drops right down into a dangerous level. And then as the saliva starts to neutralize that acid, it brings that pH level back to normal. So what ideally we know that we've had something acidic. We've perhaps had a fruit juice that we've had with a straw, obviously. What we can do is try and get that pH level in the mouth back up to neutral as quickly as possible. So there's several ways that we can do that. We can chew a sugar-free chewing gum for 20 minutes. We could use a fluoride mouthwash, or we can even have a drink of water, which will help to dilute it. That's probably the weakest, evidentially, one.
Mhm.
But if you can't get to anything else, it's better than nothing. And that will just help the saliva just get back to a normal level, so that the demineralization of the enamel, which is what we call those loosened bits that we've loosened with the acid, it's demineralization of the enamel. As soon as we get back to a neutral pH, that is all remineralizing, so we can minimize the damage. So it's important to remember those kind of things. And also on a night out, often we forget that the drinks involved in a night out, if you're having a glass of wine or
Oh, I was like, where's this going? What we're doing?
where
What we're
did you
doing with
think I was
acid on a
going?
night out? But
Ah,
but yeah, I
right off the
suppose
beaten track.
yeah.
Yeah, so sometimes we don't remember that. And if you sort of had a glass of wine in the evening and then go to bed, you need to make sure that you leave it an hour before your last sip of wine before you go upstairs and brush your teeth as well. Because if you brush your teeth while that remineralizing process is happening, you could brush away the loosened particles, which will speed up the erosion process. So it's important to do that. So often, have a glass of wine, have a glass of water,
Mhm.
and you can do it like that. So
And
the
I suppose
same
spirits
with
and
any
mixers
mixers.
as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
spirits and mixers. Yeah, spirits and mixers. Cocktails. Although we all love a cocktail, especially in the nice weather or on holiday.
of
Um,
course.
Lots of fruit, lots of acid, lots of sugar. So, we're getting it all generally drank through a straw, which is probably its redeeming feature. But yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that nobody should have anything, but just be mindful of what you're putting your teeth through, because if you have a sip of a cocktail and your teeth are sort of demineralizing the enamel, and you leave it for sort of 10 minutes so that the pH level is coming back to normal. Then you have another sip and it drops back down again. Potentially, the enamel on your teeth could be under attack for a long time. So it's just being mindful and just understanding what can happen in the process of having acid. But it's not just foods and drinks. There are certain medical conditions that mean that we can have acid reflux. So that's the same thing. So whereas we're putting in the acid from foods and drinks through the mouth, these acids are coming up from the stomach. So they're stomach acids, which can do the same thing. So if you know that you suffer a bit with this, speak to your GP. They can probably give you something to stop that acid reflux. They can check the reason why you're having this reflux. And you can take the same sort of steps as you would after eating or drinking anything acidic. So you're chewing gum, the fluoride mouth rinse, the water, to help to minimize the damage there. So it's really important that we keep hydrated, we keep our saliva flow going in the mouth, because the saliva is our number one protective barrier against it. So it's that's probably one of the most important things, is understanding that if we can keep hydrated, we're helping our saliva to do its job. But just being aware of where the acid is coming in from in our diet and trying to minimize the contact of this acid with our tooth enamel, and that will help us to keep the enamel on our teeth as healthy as possible, because there's nothing worse than having some erosion and it gets sensitive, and then you're sort of in the realms of you need a desensitizing toothpaste, or like I said before, even to the point where the dentist has to put some filling material, or sometimes even crowns and veneers, sometimes if it's very extreme,
Yeah. And
to
it's painful
stop
too,
that
right?
pain. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Like
yeah, it can
sensitivity
be.
is uncomfortable, but if you're getting to the point where the enamel's just completely, for all intents and purposes, gone, and there's nothing protecting all those sensitive
Mhm,
nerves and everything inside the teeth, then
mhm.
that's really not a nice feeling
No, it's not a nice
whatsoever.
feeling. And obviously the enamel, sorry, the dentine under the enamel wears much quicker than enamel. Enamel is obviously a very, very hard substance,
Hmm.
and we need to protect it. It's like the jacket that's over the top of the tooth that's preventing pain, it's preventing the teeth wearing down very quickly, and it's enabling us to eat and chew successfully. So it's really important that from a young age, we realise that when we get our adult teeth through, not saying that baby teeth are not important, they really are, but
Hmm.
when we get to our adult teeth, the first adult teeth start coming through at about 6 years old. Now that tooth has got a lot of work to do. I mean, I don't know what is it, 3 score years and 10. I
Hmm.
don't know how we're working on their average age now. That's a heck of a lot of years that tooth is going to come under the bombardment of acid and sugar and everything that we're going to throw at it. So it's really important to start these good habits early on. Like I say, I'm not saying don't ever have them, but have them safely. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm partial to a fruit juice in the morning, but I will have it with my breakfast, and I will have, you know, water afterwards, and I don't brush my teeth for an hour after eating or drinking anything anyway. So,
exactly.
remembering the key points is probably the most important thing.
Absolutely. I mean, we're not anti-fun. We're very fun, aren't we, Karen?
I like to think so. I
So
like to
do
think
I,
so.
but maybe other people would disagree. But
I
no,
think
it's
I think we have fun.
yeah. And as well, like, your stomach, I think your stomach acid is like a pH of 2. And like the
Yeah,
mouth is
it's a very
7.
low number.
So it's
Yes.
like
Yeah.
if you're getting that reflux, that's a huge acid
Yeah.
attack. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
going and rubbing loads of lemons on your teeth
It
constantly.
is,
It's
yeah.
like
And this is
it's
what I really,
painful.
really hate, watching the TikTok videos of these people, rubbing strawberries on their teeth to make them
Hmm.
whiter. Don't do that. It's full of acid. You're rubbing acid on your teeth. The tooth is looking whiter because you've taken some of it off. It's not right. It's not the right thing to do. We want exactly the opposite. And a great little tip, after you've had something acidic, maybe with your lunch, have a piece of cheese afterwards. You don't have to have a great big wedge of it, just a little couple of squares of cheese,
Little
and that
cheese
really
cube.
will. A cheese cube,
Ooh.
yes.
I mean, to be fair, I never, ever, ever needed an excuse to eat cheese
Not
before,
me.
but now maybe I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have a little slice of cheese.
Little slice
Nice.
of cheese after
Yeah,
you've had your lunch or dinner, or well, it's very European, isn't it? A continental breakfast always has cheese in it.
I guess that's true.
So
Yeah.
that's helping the saliva again, because cheese is a neutral pH. So that again is neutralizing the acid in your mouth. So that's a sort of, it must be nature's way, mustn't it, that gave
Mm.
us cheese.
Yeah, I'm gonna. I guess people have like not in. I find it personally quite strange, but people do have glasses of milk with food. So I guess you could kind of say the same thing, right? Of
Yeah, you
like,
could. You
it's
could.
got all that. It's just
Yeah, you could have some milk after it if you wanted to. I personally wouldn't. I
no,
don't
it's
like
not
full
for
fat
me.
milk though, so I would find it, yeah, it's each to their own, I suppose. But cheese is easier to grab, and that you can just
Cheese is more acceptable, I think, to have with a meal. Like, I think an adult having a glass of milk with a meal, I would raise my eyebrows, but that's just me. No, what do I know, eh?
Well, yeah, yeah, it might be the new norm. You never know.
But I think that's a lot of good advice. And I'm t certainly remembering that. Eat a piece of cheese after a meal to help neutralize the mouth quicker. And we all know the sugar-free gum and having some water and just being mindful. If you've got a heartburn, don't eat anything that's going to trigger it and make it worse. And there's all these little things that we can do and
Yeah.
actually makes a big difference in the
Sort of
long
eating
run.
late at night as well is often not good for a lot of people's
Yeah.
stomachs. But the people who have acid reflux know they have it because it's
Yeah.
unpleasant.
And yeah, and I'll
And
I'll be honest, I have very bad acid reflux, and I'm not supposed to have hot drinks. I exclusively drink hot drinks. I'm not supposed to eat too close to going to bed. Well, sometimes I eat close to bed and then I'm too full and fall asleep, and then that makes it all. I'm gonna take these little tips and try and improve it that
try
way.
it. Yeah, yeah, plenty of water as well, which help to even, dilute the stomach acid before it comes back up. So, it's always they all have a link. So keeping hydrated, keeping foods to um, the meal time, it all kind of makes sense. It's sort of a nice circle, really.
hmm Absolutely. And we've got loads of different foodie tooth topics that we're going to be talking about through Smile Month. This is just one of many. We're going to talk even more about cheese and all the
Cheese is
benefits
going to
of
come into it a
dairy.
lot, I think.
Oh, I'm
I
going to try and get it
predict
in every single episode. I'm going to slip in a cheese mention where I can.
we could slip in one of my cheese jokes, but every podcast in
Okay, let's hear the
National
first
Smiler.
one. Where's the
Okay,
first cheese joke?
okay. What cheese do you use to get a bear down from a tree? Come on, bear.
Oh, Jesus. On that note, I'm gonna cut you off. You've gone cheese crazy. Make sure you come back next time for more of this, apparently.
Yeah, definitely. You'll be sick. I've got a cheese joke for everything, so don't you fret. There's
Oh,
plenty more.
good, good.